All right, so the mini-map. My plan is to have a variable that keeps track of whether the map's on or not. I will call this variable mapOn. And I'm going to set it to false initially. I'm going to add in a key press for, how about M for map? There's a tricky little thing. I could do an if statement where I say if mapOn is false, set it to true, else set it to false. Another thing I could do is mapOn equals not mapOn. What's that trickiness? Okay, so it's a true or false value, right? Exclamation point means not. So it makes whatever's after it the opposite of it. So if it was false, I'm going to reassign it the value true. If it was true, I make it the opposite and reassign it the value false. What trickiness is that? Because I'm paranoid, I'm going to test this real quick. So I'm going to do a show message. Now, mapOn is a number right now, so I have to make it a string. And what this will do is this will throw a pop-up message with mapOn. M1, M0, M1. That looks good to me. I'm satisfied that works. This is a nice way to debug things, actually. So if you have a number that you want to see what its value is at a particular moment, you could run on the debugger. Another option is to do a show message of some sort. Or draw that variable on the screen would be another way to do it. Those are useful ways to find out what's going on in your game. If you're like, why does it have this value? That seems strange to me. All right, so that turns on and off the map in the draw event. I think I'm going to make this semi-transparent as well, so I'm going to put it in after the health bar here. If mapOn is true. Here comes the monstrous stuff. So I think I'm going to draw the player at the center of the screen. So the player is going to be right in the dead center. And then I'm going to draw walls relative to where he's at. So the X and Y position of the player is basically going to be the center. So the center is going to be basically right in the middle of my screen. So that's going to be equals the room width divided by 2. The center of my mini-map is going to be room height divided by 2. If you don't like where this is positioned, it will be very easy. You will just change the center X and the center Y, and that'll just change where your mini-map is centered. All right. Every wall needs to draw itself. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the X and Y position of a wall, figure out where it is relative to my player, and draw a line in that position. So the idea is with obj wall basic for every single object. I'm going to take the difference between their X position and where the player is. So if the player is 30 pixels to the right, I need to draw the wall 30 pixels to the left of the player. So I'm going to take my X position minus the player's X position. So I'm going to name that diff X being the difference between those two. All right, so let's just take some example numbers. So let's say that my player happens to be at 100. So 100, and let's say my wall is at 30. 30 minus 100 would be negative 70, so I need to draw the X position negative 70 from where the player is. That's right. All right, so then I figure out the Y position comparing those two. All right, so what happens now? I need to, let's see, do I want X or X1? I probably actually want x1 and x2 because those are built into the various values. So this will be the difference between x1 and player's x, y1 and player's y. And I'll do the same thing with x2. So that should be from the center where I need to draw a particular line for this wall. I'm just going to do mine in white for now. If you don't like white, you can obviously change it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in a line. There are arrows, backgrounds, circles, ellipses, line. So the line is going to be from a particular x and y to another x and y. In particular, what I want is center underscore x plus the difference for x1. And then for the y position, it's going to be center y plus the difference of y1. Similar for the x. Center x plus the difference for x2. Center y plus the difference for y2. Wow, really? Does that work? Well, let's see. Maybe my map will be reversed because I've got a negative in there wrong. Yay! I broke it. OK, center x. Aha. Something I already forgot about with statements. Inside of a with statement, self becomes other. Center x and center y, because they're defined before the with statement, they now become other inside of here. So in particular, this should be other.centerx. Other.there. Come on, you can spell. There we go. Other.centerY. Other.centerx. Other.centerY. I'm going to put a return in here just so it all fits on one screen. That shouldn't matter. OK, how about now? Does it work now? It works in the magical land of theory inside my head. Whoa, that's cool. You know what else would be nice? If I could actually see where I am in the map. What do you think? So I'm also going to draw in the player in here. So I'm going to draw an arrow from, well, let's set the color again here. I'm going to draw an arrow from the player's x to the player's y. All right, so here's where I need to actually use the trig that I learned earlier. So I need it to point in the direction he's facing, but I need to put it at a particular x and y position. So what I need to do is add, basically, I need to figure out a triangle's worth of distance that I want. So this actually is in your code already, believe it or not. So let me go show you. OBJ player. In particular, it's this camera. Right here is one step in whatever direction you're looking at. So this code here. The cosine being the adjacent, so it's adding to your x position. The y being the sine, it's the opposite, so it adds to your y position. It turns out you have to the negative to flip it. I'm going to copy that, because I'd be lazy. So that's the x and y, 1 pixel in that direction. Except I'm not in the player, so I need to add obj.player to that. And let's go ahead and put in a return so you can see all of this. obj.player.y. And the size of the arrow. I don't know, whatever that means, 2. What is the size of an arrow? Draw arrow. Size. Size indicates the size of the arrow in pixels. Sure, 2 pixels is fine. I suspect this arrow is going to be too short, so I'm going to have to multiply my addition here, the cosine and the sine, by something to make it longer. Map. I can't even see my arrow because my cursor's over it. Let's get rid of that cursor real quick and see if I can see it at all. That's really small. And also in the wrong spot, I just realized too. This should be not the object player's x, because that's not where we're drawing it. That should be center x. Haha, my bad. Center y. Player center x and center y. Because the minimap's actually not where the player's located, it's where it is on the screen, because we're actually switching from 3D to 2-dimensional. Is that right? Yes, it is, and yes, that arrow is really small. All right.